All right, good day, hi, welcome. Sorry about that. I don't know where it cut off, but anyway, so I want to get into some important stuff here too. So going back, if I'm repeating myself, sorry, but anyway, so the Germans, the SS did uh, an assessment of the Welschmite, how you say the German military from World War II, and you know how they were demoralized fighting Canadians the most. Like the morale would go down the most once they found the Germans hated fighting us the most, us Canadians. Well documented. Canadians and Australians were always considered the worst for the Germans to fight. Number one, we never had anything good on us, and we fought like bastards, right? Um, but what they came down to was when they examined it that the German military respected like the Americans' mechanized infantry and how they could just throw numbers at you, right? And with the British, they admired the tactics that they would use to beat you, right? But with the Canadians, it was just pure fear because it's like these Canadians, it's just the brutality and the violence that we would bring, right? And again, it crosses over from the World War One Canadian to World War Two. And the thing is that uh, what they saw was that the British would try to use their tactics to get around you to get to capture an objective, and they'd try to kill you as quickly as possible, you know, to avoid getting killed themselves, right? The Americans would try to just overrun you with numbers, and again to get through you as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But when it came to the Canadians, it was pure fear because it was just like, okay, the Canadians, even if you stop them in their tracks, they try to find a way around to get close and personal. The Canadians they said the Canadians always like to kill you close and personal. They would shoot you, but if they could stab you, they'd rather stab you than shoot you, right? Because they were brutal. We brought just brute violence, and we'd find ways to just like overcome, like like where people would mostly retreat, the Canadians would still keep coming. You know what I mean? This is well documented with Canadian battles. We just keep fucking coming, right? It's like it doesn't matter if we're outnumbered or not. Like, you know, it's on, buddy. We're coming for you. But it was just the idea that they said like when the Americans killed you, they did it with efficiency. With the British killed you, they did it with tactics. But when Canadians killed you, they did it because they wanted to. And you know what? And it's like I could totally see that because it's just like, yeah, well, fuck you, buddy. You wanted to fight, you're gonna get a fight. And this is what we've been seeing the entire thing with Trump and Carney. It started with Trudeau. Like again, like Trudeau. Everybody hates Trudeau. I hate Trudeau. He's the biggest treasonous to my country that we've ever had. Carney, I know people are calling him a treasonous. He has not been treasonous yet. Carney has done nothing treasonous. He's done everything by the books, whatever the laws are. He's like Stephen Harper in that way. Again, I'm not a fan of Carney, but what I'm saying is I don't just throw out hyperbolic language just for rage bait because it does you no good anyway. You don't have to like the guy, but you got to be honest, right? You don't have to like the trade deals, but you got to be honest. Money's money. Do you like making money? Do you not like making money? And the thing that was supposed to happen, okay, and again, because people are hooked on these two numbers, the Canadian economy is like 50 to 75% hooked on the United States economy. It's not that number anymore. It's much less than that now. It's just that's the numbers everybody knows. And the Americans buy 2% of GDP per month. And Donald Trump said we don't need anything from Canada. You know, now it's Canada only exists because of us. Right now, yes, Canada is in a bad position. There is no question about that. Carney has been again has now grown Canada by 12 new trade deals. Yes, it will be 4 or 5 years before you see the fruits and labors of these trade deals. But at this rate, if we just did 12 trade deals a year, just that, within 10 years, we're a superpower, in multiple things, right? So we are a mid power. Yes, the Carney administration gets no respect by the right whatsoever. I get that. But it is true. We are a mid power when you add things up. When you take a real world view of things, and it's like, okay, like you'll hear the bad, oh, this doesn't function, that doesn't. You are correct. But if you look at it overall, this is the same blueprint in every country. Half of the stuff the Americans have doesn't function properly either. You know what I mean? Half of the stuff China has doesn't function properly either. Half the stuff we have doesn't. It's kind of like everybody has the same global problems, right? It's just it's always worse when it's over on the other side of the fence and people don't look at their own. But when you look at your own, it's like, yeah, we're fucked too. The difference is we're doing something about it. The Americans are not. There's a lot of rhetoric and we're winning and cheerleading and all that, but there's no there. There's no policy. Again, as I talked about, like with the Greenland policy, that there Trump finally got the deal he wanted. No, he just like it's you got a guy out there saying something, but it's like okay, when you go to Denmark, they're sitting there scratching their heads and going, well, what deal was made? Like nobody told us. It's like if you want it, like, and again, the thing is all of this rhetoric. And again, you listen to the Trump cheerleaders. Trump's getting money, but it's like the Greenlanders are saying, yes, you can get these deals. You can build things here. Yeah, you could. We'll let's just come to the table and we'll work out the deal. And Trump's response: "You give me what I want, or I'm going to fucking invade you." But you don't have to. We're going to comply. We're going to, you just got to come and make the deal. So there is no deal to be made. Like Trump wants Greenland for the sake of a vanity project and his Golden Dome and whatever, but it has nothing to do with NATO. It has nothing to do with strategic defense and stuff. It's just a part of it, but it's not about. It's about Trump's ego because the man has gone insane. You don't want to think it's that. You want to think, okay, there's some sort of grand plan, but no, narcissism is a massive problem in the world, and Trump is like the biggest narcissist ever, right? That's his, anybody that disagrees with that, no matter if they're on the left or on the right, okay, yeah, you're full of shit. It's easy to see. You know what I mean? It's easy to see. But no, Canada was supposed to fold on day one. We didn't. Why didn't we? Because we're different. That's why. We rallied, right? Now, is Canada divided and polarized the same as the United States? Yeah, it's probably about 50-50. You probably have half the country on the right, half the country on the left. And you got this fringe, nihilistic, right-wing separatists and stuff like that. They don't want to fix anything. They just want to separate. They want to. It's the same problem you have with here in Quebec. The only difference is in Alberta, they want to separate over transfer payments and pipelines and a tanker ban. You know what I mean? And maybe it's a little more nuanced than that, but in general, that's what it is. In Quebec, they want to do it over culture, right? But these are fringe groups. Not that you shouldn't take them seriously, but they are fringe groups. But that said, this nihilism that is on the right of like everything is just completely shot to shit. So don't bother trying to save anything because it's just pointless. Those are deracinated people. They're very loud deracinated people, but they're deracinated people. No, I could see the turning coming. And again, it's not going to be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect world. But I could see that we're outplaying, Carney's outplaying Trump at pretty much every corner. Even if it's short term, we have to take a couple of hits, right? So when Carney has prepared us the best he can in the shortest amount of time because he knows the end of NAFTA 2.0 or Kuzma is coming. He already knows that. He already knows there's no deal to be made with Trump. Anybody that's out there, Carney said this, and now we can't make a deal, blah, blah, blah. It's like there was never a deal to be made. The rest of the Western world is looking at the United States saying, it's not just about Trump at this point. It's like they're looking at all the craziness going on in the United States and saying, well, it's not that we are going to divert our trade just because of Trump or hold off on making trade deals, until Trump's out of office. It's that, can we trust the American people not to elect somebody crazy like this again? Now, if you think Trump is bad, he is bad. He went from the best president the United States ever had, strangely enough, to the worst, right? He's now worse than Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, yeah, she would have been bad. There's no doubt about that, but not to this level. I just don't think she could pull it off. You know what I mean? Trump just seemed to be able to pull off this much destruction. But the guy coming after Trump will probably not be J.D. Vance. It's probably going to be some sort of radical communist leftist, and most likely it's going to be like it'll be like a Somali, it'll be a protest vote to like a Somali fucking warlord or something. Like, again, what you're about to, like, if you think it's bad under Trump, don't worry, it's going to be much worse under the next guy because of the retribution. Yeah, it's that bad. It's that bad. So the rest of the world's looking at this like we can't trust the Americans at all as a people. And again, it hurts me to say that because to me, you're like my brother, and I know it's not all the Americans. I know it's like 80% of Americans are completely against Trump. Whether they're on the left or the right. It's just a small Zionist Israeli lobby, neocons, and the Mark Rubio faction of the Cuban lobby, and the Somali, the Somali Congress, and you get it. It goes on. It's everybody but Americans in there, right? That are just basically creating all this havoc. But the Jewish lobby is the worst, right? And that is what it is. And again, you can call me out on that, call me anti-Semite, whatever. But again, it's like the emperor has no clothes at this point. You can call me whatever name you want, but can you prove me wrong? Probably not, right? So the thing is that the rest of the world is now finding a pivot away from that. They don't necessarily want to pivot towards China, but they're like, okay, well, maybe if we have super PACs amongst ourselves, that will do that. That will save us. So Trump is in a desperate situation because we were supposed to fold on day one because of the threat of a 75. Like, who would gamble at 75% of their trade, their economy, to say no, right? Because that's the ultimate bullying. So in the short term, right, you have to think about it like this. Okay, in the short term, we knew we had about a year from the time Trump took office to negotiate Kuzma, right? So in that time, how much trade can we divert? Well, so far, I know it's over 15.5% out of that 75% is no longer dependent on the United States. In 1 year, it might be even like 24% new trade made. Okay, so when Trump cuts off that, we're not going to hurt as much. Is it going to hurt? Yeah, it's going to hurt a lot. But 85% of the trade we probably do with the United States is stuff we can get from other people. So that's more like just supply chain issue. So 6 months down the road, that card's played. Suddenly, the lingering effects of destroying our economy doesn't last as long as Trump wants, right? So that means when you war game it, it's like, okay, well, that means there's a major problem about to take place. And this is what all the Canadian military rhetoric is about, okay? Now, the rest of the world, okay, France, Germany, the Arctic 8 nations that we're now a part of. The United States is not a part of it, I don't think. And the thing is that what the whole thing is the reason why they come out on the CBC saying if the Americans invade us, they'll take us over in 3 days, militarily wise, and then we're going to fight a guerrilla Afghanistan-style guerrilla war, which I said is exactly what would happen, right? So that's no brainer there. But why are they saying it out loud? Why are they saying the quiet part out loud? Well, there's a couple of reasons for this. Okay, Trump sitting there saying you only exist because of us. Is Trump really that upset about Carney's speech at Davos? Probably because he's a faggot. Yeah, the orange faggot can't take any criticism whatsoever, right? And he sees us as, subordinate. Like, he sees us as like, you ungrateful fucking bastards. You're supposed to do everything we tell you to do. You're supposed to live in our shadow, whatever. How dare you even attempt to become, self-reliant, right? That's the way Trump thinks. And there's a lot of Americans that think about Canada like that. There's nothing you can do about that. Like, there is Americans that just hate us for being Canadian. And yes, there's the same on the other side, Canadians that hate Americans for just being American. Why this is, I don't know. But it's usually the more radical types that do that, not the average person. But that's not the there. The there is that Trump is signaling that he's going to go to war with us. He's been signaling he's going to go to war with us for a year now, right? And there's a lot of moon over Parador, again, to quote that movie, going on with Trump, where he makes this outrageous threat, you give him what he wants, and then he backs off, right? But the thing is people have caught on to when he makes these outrageous threats, there's nothing to the threat, right? But there is something to the threat. And the thing is when tyrants lose power and psychopaths lose power, they tend to lash out, right? Because you need me. Without me, you're nothing. That's all you hear from the Trump administration. Every time it's like, look, we love you, Canada. You're your greatest ally, blah, 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 blah. But look, you got to do what we tell you to do or you're nothing. You can't stand on you. You're no good by yourself. You'll just get taken advantage of. You don't know how to run yourselves. You don't have agency, basically. You guys are like little infant babies. Without us, we protect you. Again, Trump going on about how he's spending all this money in Canada, keeping us running. And I'm like, I didn't get an American check anytime soon. What I mean? Like it's all bullshit. No, the Americans aren't paying for fucking shit up here. We buy it ourselves. Like we pay for it. Plus, Trump doesn't understand mutual benefit. So here's what people are saying the quiet part out loud. It's like, okay, the deterrent is this. We can't declare war against the Americans, right? We can't do that because that would be dumb. But what we can do is signal that we're preparing for war with you, right? Because we understand. What I'm thinking is there was probably a U.S. general or somebody in the mix that gave us a heads up that, yeah, you guys are going to be invaded. So from the time they shut off, say, NORAD, which I said Trump would probably get rid of NORAD, but I'm thinking from the time he shuts off the USMCA. So if the USMCA is taken down, no matter how many Americans, and it will be millions of Americans that are going to suffer from this, all going to happen is you're just going to lose business. You're not going to gain anything, right? What will happen is that is the signaling that, okay, they are now going to mobilize to go to war with us physically. Currency war, trade war, shooting war. That's always so. We're about to move from trade war into shooting war. Now the thing is that we know this is coming, right? Hence why the idea is just to kind of. Okay, we can't win over the American military, but we could probably win over the American populace saying, look, the Americans are going to destroy all our military assets in 4 days, maybe 400 days. I got to think about realism here. The American military is pretty fucking competent. There's no doubt about that. But it's not like our weaponry is so obsolete and bad that it can't fire back. Tactics are like if you got a Halifax class frigate, yes, they're going to try to take it out with air power first, right? But you can hide those things, and move those back and use those as counteroffensive tools later on. I'm sure we're probably as speaking, we're probably smuggling in, air defense systems from other countries getting ready. So like the Americans, they're like, well, they don't got any air defense. We can just take over Canada with air power, first, right? We'll destroy all the bases. Yes, there's only 13 major bases to hit. So make sure there's nothing really on it when they hit it, right? So yeah, we see what the Ukraine is doing. Okay, well, Ukraine is, like Russia has a hard time finding all these Ukrainian air bases because some of them are in Poland, but the ones that are in Ukraine are hard to find because they're all makeshift runways all over the place. Canada is a fucking monstrous country. It's the second largest landmass country in the world. We can hide shit all over the place, even with the coverage of the United States satellites and stuff like that. And it's not like we don't have the ability to counter that stuff as well. Blinding satellites is not rocket science. You know what I mean? You don't have to shoot them down to make them, like the drone technology, the anti-drone technology, yes. What we're telling you is that we're going to kill Americans predominantly with drones and IEDs and anti-tank weapons and shit like that. An American invasion, okay, of 90,000, take all 90,000 armored vehicles and tanks, and there's about 5,500 tanks and maybe about 2,200 Abrams that are actually in service. But let's say they got all 5,500 out of there. We're not going to be fighting you tank to tank. you know what I mean? Anti-tank weapon to tank, sniping you out through the rock shield and stuff. The American military is only 1 million men, 1.5 million people, maybe 4 million with all the arm's length stuff. It's not enough people to take over Canada. You could never do it, right? But doesn't mean they're not stupid enough to try. right? That's the thing about vanity projects that like Trump, like he believes that in like American superiority, right? And it's just like, okay, well, first off, it would be so costly just to get from, well, I'll show you on the map. Okay, we're gonna say the United States has everybody here, okay, about to invade Canada, and Toronto's here, Ottawa's here, okay. Okay, it takes 2 days to cross Ontario just to get from one side of Ontario to Manitoba. That's driving at 60 miles an hour on the 401. Tanks are not going to be doing 60 miles an hour on the 401, not for long periods of time. Okay, so that's okay. France, Germany, okay, that fits in the Hudson's Bay. That's how fucking big Canada. Like, people don't realize how big of that, and almost everybody lives here. You know what I mean? They got some people up here, here. Got about 25 people, 25 native reserves up here. Whatever. We got somebody up here. That's whatever. It's huge. I know that's not the scale, but it's still huge. The logistics just to be able to do that, right? You're not going to take Canada with air power alone, and you're not going to do it without losses. This idea that, like, Canada's lying to you. No, you would be lucky if you could take Canada in 15 years with the state of the U.S. military. And you're assuming that there's not going to be cross-border skirmishes, that we're just going to fight completely defensive and non-offensive at all. The first thing we're going to be doing is blowing out your rail lines, taking out your power, destroying we're going to do what the Americans do to everybody else. We're going to destroy your food supply. We're going to take out your hide. You're going to do it to us, so we're going to do it to you first, right? So as soon as it's game on, the SS was right about Canadians. Okay, well, we might not have the superior mechanized power, but we're going to kill you up close and personal. We're going to sneak in there. We're going to poison your water. We're going to destroy your manufacturing. Your strategic reserve, don't worry about filling it up. Your freighters full of oil, they're going to be sunk in the harbor. Norfolk, it's gone. Where do you think our first torpedoes are going to be going? They're going to be going after your Navy. You know what I mean? We're going to have sea mines in the St. Lawrence. I mean, we're going to keep you out. We're going to keep you out. Like, you're not going to be able to just come in the way. Like, it's always this grandiose. Look at Russia was going to be in Kiev in a week. You know what I mean? Yes, I'm sure the Russians can move faster, but they would lose so much more men. If you try to fight a 3-day war, you lose 750,000 men in that 3 days. Then how do you hold it? What we're telling you is we're going to let you come in. If you take Canada in 3 days, okay, you're going to lose all that military equipment in about 3 or 4 months. Everything. And every personnel. Like, we're going to make it so fucking painful. And you got all these Americans that are like, oh my God, how dare they? They threaten to use terrorist attacks against us. Well, if you invade us, yeah. It wouldn't matter who you were. We're going to do the same thing. You have to understand, okay, no, most Canadians, I'd say 95% of Canadians don't want to fight. They don't want to go to war with the Americans or whatever. But that 5% that probably would be like Deverell's Brigade, World War One stuff. Like, these are the guys that are really cruel. These are the guys that walk into a tent with the flamethrower. They're these type of guys, right? And yes, we will have flamethrowers. Yes, the Geneva Convention's out. We're going to use chemical warfare against you. We're going to use. Oh, you don't have professional grade chemical warfare. Okay. Taliban tactics. This is what's been agreed upon so far. If you invade us, we are going to use Taliban tactics against you. The Taliban did not have department stores. Okay, you're going to see a Javex shortage and a chlorine shortage in Canada day 2 of that. And you're going to see, like, if like all the roofing contractors guys say, okay, well, I can't get any more screws or nails. Why? Where are they? Because that's what's going to be raining, like these chemical warfare nail bombs, shit like that is going to be like every kid's going to get the anarchist cookbook. You know what I'm saying? And it's just going to be like just maiming, and it's going to be fucking brutal. And the thing is it's mostly going to be coming from the populace. Not the military. The Canadian military is probably going to be there more to save the American soldiers than they are to. It's like, oh, these guys are fucking gone nuts. We can't control them now. Like yeah. So like air power, sure, you're gonna, utilize that, but it doesn't mean that like if our military decides to go down fighting, okay, we're gonna take everything we have against everything you have. Okay, sure, maybe let's say we'll give you NATO odds 4-1 in our favor. Okay, that would be we'll take it down 2-1. Okay, 2-1, you lose tens of thousands of people. More like on day one, you lose like the entirety of Vietnam on day one, and 500,000 people will say are killed in the process of just soldiers. Never mind the civilians that get caught in the crossfire. Because the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to say, okay, well, not only do we gotta fight that kind of a warfare, but we have to make sure we have a buffer zone of about 200 to 400 kilometers all here. In other words, we're going to take all that and then we have to push our way in here, right? And you say, well, you can't do that because we're so much superior, blah blah blah. No, we can, because we can. First off, Alaska will be isolated. Like, there's no way for Alaska to get resupplied this way. So the highway that goes up there, that's done. So it's by ship. Now, every ship that goes across that we see going to Alaska, there'll be a no shipping zone. So either you're going to run into a sea mine or you're going to get a Mark 54 or Mark 48 torpedo up the wazoo, right? So you won't be able to resupply Alaska at all other than air power. And then you got to make sure you can keep the air power outside the range of air defense systems. Again, anti-tank weapons and manpan launchers we have lots of. But we'll find you with the thermal imaging and with the drones. Yeah, but drones are going to get shot down left, right, and center. So it's like, plus we have electronic warfare. Like, we got stuff that you guys have too. We don't have the same numbers. But we'll use our new high frequency weapons that we use against Venezuela. Yeah, you can use those, but I think those are just mostly sound cannons, and a lot of that is propaganda. Don't get me wrong, right? There was weapons like, for example, when you use like heavy radar jamming stuff like that. Yes, what those Venezuelan soldiers probably experienced was electronic warfare signals. That's why they got sick and stuff like that. Basically, you're getting microwaved. That's what it is. That's how you fry out radars from enemy enemy radars and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean it's foolproof. You know what I mean? Like, so that was probably from the Growlers and the F-35s. That it's probably that. But we have radar jamming too. Like, look, in the 1950s, a lot of pilots, whether it was Canadian, American, British, whatever, their aircraft had like instruments with glycerin in, which would go radioactive. That's why so many pilots were becoming sterile and getting high rates of cancer. Radar, when you're on a major ship and they turn on that big ass fucking radar, a lot of times you can't be on deck because you'll get irradiated. You're literally getting microwaved from the inside out. So most nations do have technology that does that, right? Anti-drone technology, we do have that. Again, so it's not going to be a cakewalk that everybody believes. Like, you got to just think of just the fuel. You know what I mean? Like, like, that's why I've always said, like, the Red Dawn movie scenarios, it's a short-sighted thing. Like, yes, you can rush the mound, but then you run out of fuel when you get there. What happens to Abrams tanks that are sitting out there in the prairies? Like, oh yeah, but the prairies, because it's so open, you won't be able to hide your guys. Anti-tank gunners are trained to sit in open country. Like, wheat and grain grow very tall. You know what I mean? Like, they can snipe you out. This idea that we'll just roll right across, and artillery is long reaching. Like, we got 30-kilometer ranged artillery. With shells that home in. It's what I mean. Like, it's going to be a slaughter. You're probably going to lose 10, 15 to 1. Why? Because you have to factor in modern military, right? Like, the Russians are beating the Ukrainians about 4 or 5 to 1 at best, maybe a little higher than that now, because their numerical superiority in open country, right? But once they get into like the house-to-house fighting, it's kind of 1-for-1. And even if it was 1-for-1, like, I mean, you gotta understand, like, most of the people fighting the Americans won't be in uniform. You know what I mean? Like no one's gonna, like, we're gonna use Taliban tactics. We're gonna be civilians. So you start, maybe you shoot a couple of guys in their what do you call it, their special forces, Canadian special forces. But as soon as you see that on the TV, it's like, oh my God, they just shot civilians. You know what I mean? So what we're doing is we're appealing to the Americans that will rise up against the the U.S. invasion plan. So I think we've been tipped off that, and this is why we're mobilizing. We're going to mobilize early. We have probably about 3 months to mobilize, 3 maybe 6 months, because again, they're not going to they're not going to invade in the winter. That would be a really bad idea. It would be the dumbest idea ever. Yeah, sure, you'd catch us off guard and unsuspected, but when you're stuck there in the mud and the snow and stuff like that, like, okay, pow. Yeah, we exchange our shotguns for like anti-tank weapons, right? So it's like, yeah, like, I mean, yeah, it'd be a war that doesn't have to happen, but Trump is stupid, so who knows what he's going to do. But that's what they're telling you, is that we are preparing for war with the Americans, from the officially, unofficially. This is what Mark Carney has been signaling to us, is that no, the Americans do want war with us. Nothing of it's not our fault. It's just the Americans have seen us as some sort of threat to them, whatever. They've gone paranoid, right? This happens with neocon governments, is they just want to attack everybody. They're insane. But that said, there's a lot we can do too, and other partners. Again, you have to understand, if France and Germany decide to back us, they could back us with nukes, aircraft deliverable nukes. So, if the United States threatens nuclear power, like nuke us, well, then you won't get the country anyway, because it'll be irradiated, right? So it doesn't matter if you kill us all. But at that point, so many people are going to skirmish across the border that you're going to be dealing with terror tactics. And you got to understand, like, if it goes total war scenario, everything on the border gets artillery both sides. That means all the civilians that look, it's just that's how you move the people back. Like I know, like, populace to populace, not military to military, but the rebel groups, the Canadian rebel groups, will kill just American civilians just to kill one American soldier. Why? Because it'll be worth it. Collateral damage. The way the Americans say, okay, it's okay if we drop a JDAM to kill one terrorist if we kill 60 people, that's acceptable. Well, it's going to be like that with you guys. And again, I know nobody wants to hear me saying this, but I'm saying this is what's going to happen. It's going to, we're going to be in it to win it. Why? Because what is going to make the SS officers' assessment come to life of Canadians wanting to kill you close and personal is the betrayal. You backstabbed us. This idea that Trump's always saying we're fucking you over, and we're getting everything from free from. And there's people that believe it. I get it, but again, there's no there. Like, there's really, like, most things were agreed upon on mutual benefit, right? Now we see that we can't trust the Americans economically. The whole world sees the American as a again, I told you this is what Trump was going to do to you guys, was going to break, the American trust. This is going to last 30 to 50 years. So the golden age for America is never going to happen now. I mean, it's just going to be depravity after depravity. Look, the Americans can attack our lumber and stuff like that. Look, it was functioning, whatever. But you have to understand what the pro-MAGA people don't understand is that, okay, yes, I understand you want to be as much independence as possible. Granted, I'm not opposed to that, right? But you have to understand the reason why you're buying stuff from us. You're buying it from us because you can't supply it yourselves. Now, some stuff, yes, you can ramp up production on or whatever, but you don't have the resources we have. You have 10 times the population, right? And that is so lost on all these stick it to Canada people down there that are just like, okay, yeah, but you're hurting yourself. You know what I mean? This is what we've been trying to tell you. Again, I can't explain it any better than the U.S. economy is a tumor grafted onto the Canadian economy, which is also a tumor. You can't destroy one without the other. It has nothing to do with the percentages. It has to do everything with what is being traded. America buys critical stuff from us. Most of the stuff we're buying from you is junk that we can get from elsewhere. So probably 85% of what we buy from the Americans, we can live without. You know, I mean, okay, well, we can't buy a TV from the Americans, we'll buy it from the Japanese. You know what I mean? Fine, whatever. Cars, okay, cars will be disruptive, but it doesn't mean we can't make deals with Toyota. Like the second Trump kills the auto industry in Canada, and he will, okay, that's just 2 million vehicles that the Americans will not be selling. You know, so this, oh yeah, we're going to make them all 100% in the United States. Sure, you will, but you've lost your customer base. Like a lot of vehicles. You know, like and so it's like you can wrap up production, but for what? Because who are you going to sell it to? Like the only thing that Trump has done is destroyed trade. He has not increased trade. Carney has increased trade with other people to offset what's coming to us because he knows. Now, mind you, as soon as Kuzma is out of the way, I can see Carney going out and making 100 trade deals in a month. It's like, oh, well, we don't have the Americans holding us back anymore. It'll be the biggest fucking backfire on Trump. It'll be an immediate shock to our system. Right? There'll be revolts in the streets and whatever against Carney. There's no doubt about that. But I think Carney's already anticipating this. And most people are going to be angry with Trump, not Carney. Even conservatives. Because again, if you're not just on this, okay, Canada's complete toast, yes, we've got all kinds of problems here. There's no doubt about that. We have the everything crisis here, the same way the Americans do, the same way the British do, whatever. And most of this has been brought on by the Davos crowd. But Trump was supposed to come in and fix all this. But instead, all he cares about is Israel, the stock market. And the stock market is not the beacon of the economy. That is the people getting, stealing your wealth, getting bailed out, all that stuff. That's all that is. The small businesses in the States, especially farmers, are getting hammered so hard that the other thing too is the food supply in the States is in critical condition right now. And I know a lot of my American viewers don't believe that you're going to have a food shortage there. But again, a video I was watching last night, farmer, $97,000 worth of carrots. They're going to rot in the ground. Nobody can pick them. Trump's, like, look, I'm all for getting rid of all the illegals and stuff like that. I don't like the way Trump is going about it because I think there could be a smarter way to go about it. I'm not opposed to the ICE optics thing, but I'm also pick your battles. Like, go somewhere where it's more accepted so that you don't have all this the leftist clashing. And go after these leftist groups that are interfering. You know, like the people that are funding it. Like these people, sure, they're showing up in Minneapolis, a lot of locals, sure, because they're left wing and they're whatever. Yes, it's going to be all these crazy progressives that are showing up. But the thing is it's the people encouraging these mentally ill people to go and challenge ISIS and getting themselves shot and stuff like that. It doesn't excuse what ICE does, but they have to be held to account too. But you know that the protests have to be kept at bay. You know, you can protest, but like if you're going to be running up on the ICE agents after they're like, again, these guys are getting attacked everywhere they go. And I know they should be because, okay, I've got to throw my body on the line for social justice. Okay, I understand you're mentally ill. The reality is you can protest, but you got to keep it peaceful. And you can't obstruct justice. Your right to protest does not say you can obstruct justice, right? You can't just march into churches like they're doing, and with Don Lemon and all them going into the churches and doing all these things and disrupting. You don't have the right to do that. Well, it's my right to protest. Yes, out on the sidewalk. Yeah, like you can't just go to an establishment and start protesting. They have the right to kick you out of there. You know what I mean? And the left, again, because they've never been held to account, right? They've been allowed these radical leftist NGO groups that fund all this never go to jail. Like it's always the little guy. Like again, these people are crazy. You got to save them from themselves, right? And the best way to do that is to cut off the funding from the NGO groups, stuff like that. But anyway, I digress. But no, there is a war coming. I'm still sticking with that. It's not just rhetoric. Trump is losing against Carney. Okay, Carney makes him. It's personal. Trump would be willing to kill millions of Americans in a war and millions of Canadians just to say I told you so, right? And there's a lot of people that are on board with this. That's the sad part. That's the problem with neocons is they're kind of everywhere and they're like, well, we have to teach Canada a lesson. You're attacking Canada. You know what I mean? Like the country that fucks with nobody. Like you're attacking Greenland. Like Greenland doesn't fuck with anybody. You know what I mean? Like they don't fuck with anybody, and here we are. And it's just like what a clown world this is. Like Trump was supposed to be the good guy. What happened? I don't know. They always lie. It's every time, every single time. But who backs him? It's always the same people, right? Biden, Trump doesn't matter, except for Trump is a loose cannon, and the rest of the world sees it, and it's going to hurt Americans. Especially like the biggest threat that Trump heard wasn't, Canada willing to, fight back. It's that we fought back at every step that Trump has thrown at us. Whether you like the way we did it or not, again, it's going to be messy. Of course, we're going to take hits. But every time we take a hit, we seem to rebound back a little bit better. So it's like, okay, well, Trump cuts this off, okay, but now we're bound trade over here. So we've already replaced at least 15% trade in a year. In 6 years, we won't need the United States for anything, or very, 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 very little, right? And this trend is not going to stop no matter who gets into power next. Like Trump is going to have to suspend the Constitution because he's at this state, he's probably going to go and face, crimes against humanity. He's about to be Milosevic. Again, you got NATO countries around the world. Okay, will they the test of NATO is being tested by the United States, the actual resolve. And it's not a 4D chess plan. I know. Well, that's the whole point of it. Blah blah blah. Is so that see who's going to come to the aid and blah 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 and all that. And it's the end of NATO. I don't think it's the end of NATO. I think it might turn into something else. But no, it's not the end of NATO. It might be the end of the United States in NATO. Look, I'm all for getting out of NATO. I think the money we waste on NATO, it doesn't mean we can't have partnerships with other countries. Like, for example, Nordic Alliance makes sense for Canada. NATO, not as much. NORAD makes sense for Canada and the United States. NATO, not as much, right? I'd rather take that money and turn our military, take it from a peacekeeper military, which we're no longer a peacekeeper military anyway. We do very little of that, nor should we be doing that. Like I know a lot of well, no, but on the world stage, we're these heroes when we're peacekeepers. No, it's A, we can't afford it. B, it takes away from our actual capabilities. Like we don't need to be in Mali, we don't need to be in Haiti. Cut off that foreign aid. I hate to say it's going to kill people, but we just can't afford it, right? And put that back into home defense. And by home defense, I mean we'll protect the Arctic ourselves. We'll protect the, again, you got to think about, every year that's going to go by. If Trump, the longer he delays attacking us, the more stronger we're going to become, right? And he sees this. He knows this. And he doesn't like it because we're supposed to just fold. Every time he makes a threat, we say, fuck you, make me. We do it as politely as possible, but but when you keep telling us you don't need anything from us, okay, well, we'll find people that do. Even Daniel Smith was saying, well, if the Americans don't want to buy more oil from us, well, we'll give it to somebody else. Now, yes, they're going to try to play hardball because the problem is what we lack up here is refineries. Thank you, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's dad. Because of being signed on NAFTA, one of our agreements was to limit the amount of refineries here in Canada because it would compete with the United States, and they didn't want that. And we said, okay, no problem. You're a friend. We'll do that for you. Now we find out that, okay, well, here's what the critical infrastructure we need. We don't need the Keystone Pipeline. We never did. That was more for the benefit of the Americans. We'd benefit from it, but they would benefit more. We need coastal pipelines, yes. The Churchill Falls, that is really pissing off Donald Trump because it's like, holy fuck. The Canadians can now get all that prairie oil and stuff like that out to the Arctic that way. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's going to be a major hub for us, right? And Yeah, the Arctic is ours. It's ours and it's going to stay ours. It's going to take a decade to really ramp it up so that we can do what we need to do. But it's no doubt about it now. It's going to be ours. It's and the amount of trade that's going to come out of the Churchill Falls, opening up that port. I mean, that's the Hudson's Bay. That's right, pretty much center of the country. That opens up. That saves like so many. Wow. Um, Alberta's here. Trains here. Churchill Falls is down here. Load of tankers. Hi, Europe. You know what I mean? Yes, it'd be nicer to have pipelines right to the mouth of the St. Lawrence, but higher. But we don't have that right now. So right now we have this. Hi, Asia. You know what I mean? Like, again, it takes a long time to get this stuff rolling, but this is what's happening in my country right now. It should have been happening. Well, instead of NAFTA, we should have been doing this, and we'd have all our completely independent industries by now, or at least independent enough that like every time we switch a trade deal, and again, I understand all these neocons, these people that are like, well, no, we need to become we're becoming closer to China instead of trying to rectify the differences with America. Like, oh, Carney's a communist and blah blah. No, we're being pushed towards China, but you can see that it's a reluctant push, right? What Carney's really focusing more on is other like Asian countries and stuff like that, and the Middle East. Oh, but human rights with the UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Oh, human rights, blah blah blah. Yeah, yeah. Now the right cares about human rights. When before it was just free market capitalism. Well, we should open up the country to more business. Blah blah blah. Well, he's doing that. He's doing that. It's slow, but he's doing that. My hunch is though, but like again, like the tourism in Canada is at an all-time record high. So that's offsetting some of the job losses from other industries from the trade deal, right? But it's also pushing nationalism in my country. Now the thing is that there's a lot of problems. We like a multicultural society is limited to what it can do, right? And this is the problem where we have with Carney is this whole multiculturalism experiment. Whatever. Yeah, he's hiding in the diversity is our strength stuff like. It's annoying. It's a boomer logic. It doesn't work. It will never work. It's one thing that's really tearing our country apart is having all these people come in to go on welfare and the foreign workers like Canadian Tire just taking on all these temporary foreign workers now. People are pissed about it, right? Like retail shouldn't be allowed temporary foreign workers. But this is what the data centers are for. The data centers are mainly for military stuff. But one of the things it's for is that until the robot economy can get online and replace all the human workers, what they're going to do instead is use temporary foreign workers, right? And meanwhile, like natural born Canadians are like locked out of the job market from like foreigners. It's pissing people off. Remigration now, yes, totally agree. And we're seeing slight migration, decline, which emigration is a good thing. I know all these people. Oh well, because the housing market. So yeah, the housing market. Yes, the Canadian government, under Trudeau and so that, put all its eggs in one basket in the corruption of the housing market. We know this. It's a money laundering. Like that's what the Liberals do. That's why the NDP was always talking about free housing and stuff like that. That's what it's about. It's a money laundering scheme. It's well known. It's just it's one of those scams that are so big that when you do decide to tackle it, it just implodes your entire system, right? But it's going to happen one way or the other. So I'd rather pull the bandage off. Maybe reverse course, get things ready to reverse course and then pounce, right? And then do away with it overnight. Restore like if you get rid of all this mass immigration, you can lower housing prices big time, right? But the problem is oh well, we got to keep building more and more houses. Again, no, we don't. How about we reclaim the land? Yes, that will put a lot of contractors out of work. I understand that, but we can find something else for them to do before we do that, and then pivot to that. There's the, you know, like we have to restructure our economy to be more like common sense. Like the 1950s model doesn't work anymore. The housing and autos and stuff like that. You know, the 1980s and 90s globalist economy does not work anymore. We have to pivot from that into something more sustainable. Yeah. What else was I going to cover? Yeah, so we're like you know, like it's going to be very rough the next couple of months anyway, especially after the Kuzma thing. But that will be the indicator that the Americans are getting ready to plan an invasion against us, which might take them about 3 to 4 months. I can't see them doing it in 3 to 4 months. It wouldn't be a very good plan. If they just wanted like to destroy the country overnight, air power wise, yeah, they could do that. But then you know you're going to be fighting insurgencies and counterinsurgencies for the rest of your natural lives, and a decapitation strike probably on the Trump regime, which might come from within anyway. Look, China, with all their problems, was moving along pretty stable, and there was just an attempted coup there, right? Thwarted, right? So, can you imagine with all the stuff Trump's doing? Like, I mean, again, I don't think the man makes it to the end of the year. JD Vance will probably take over for a little bit, but I don't think JD Vance will be as insane as Trump. But he still is a Zionist neocon. He'll go to war with Iran just as you know, all the Jewish donors are doing. You know, it is what it is, right? But he might lay off of us a little bit. You know what I mean? We don't know. But I don't see Trump living past June or July and half of his administration because, again, I'm not calling for the violence, but I don't see how they let him go on like this because if he's not taken out by military snipers, he'll be taken out by most likely a MAGA supporter, veteran. If you're listening to the veterans at all, they're not happy, especially with what Trump said about all the veterans, right? You know, like, yeah, I critique that, you know, all these fake wars and stuff like that, but it was the Iraqi veterans that figured it out that these wars were fake, right? And they fought and bled, and to have Trump come out there saying, oh, these guys were a bunch of cowards, and they say, like, you know, he's saying it for vitriol, for the outrage, right? It's just, the disrespect is so, you know, like, it's like, if it wasn't a plan to be disruptive and out, like, you couldn't have planned it better. You know what I mean? So Trump again, the man's gone full retard. You know, he can burn in hell. Was all you know. Like, I mean, I can understand him throwing Canada under the bus and all that. Okay, fine, I can accept that. But throwing your own people under the bus, you know, on behalf of Israel, you know, like, it's just like, and again, yeah, like, when's that going to kick off? I mean, it's getting closer and closer and closer. The Iranians are already mobilizing, you know, and again, they're mobilizing to, you know, they're going to utilize, and they're always saying, you know, they're saying the quiet part loud and loud. Yeah, we're going to be using the Houthis against the Navy. Look, the Houthis would fire 1 or 2 missiles at a time, easy to intercept. When they start firing like 200, 400 missiles at a time, you're going to get a lot of dead sailors. You're going to find out how uninvincible the United States military Navy is. And without the carrier groups, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be, yeah. Like, if the United States tries to do a naval blockade of the St. Lawrence, well, I'm hoping they're going to do that. You know, they won't be able to get in there very far, but I'm hoping they're going to do that because then we can sink the carrier in about 14 vessels. I mean, it's too bad that it'll jam up the beautiful St. Lawrence and, you know, be an ecological disaster. You know, not to mention you're going to kill about probably 15,000 fucking, you know, 3 to 8,000 minimum in a carrier group. You know, it's about 260, you know, 160 to 260 sailors on a Arleigh Burke-class warship. You know, the supply ship there, but it's the aircraft carrier where you lose everybody. You know, 3 to 8,000 people depending on the aircraft carrier. It's amazing how many people you can get on an aircraft carrier. But having that in the St. Lawrence, wow. Drone boats, just the drone boats will get you. Never mind, you know, say, well, they won't go right into the mouth of the St. Lawrence. Well, it doesn't matter if they're right at the mouth of the St. Lawrence or they're well into the St. Lawrence. You've got a couple of big islands, like Anticosti Island could be full of anti-shipping batteries. They're going to be Harpoon missiles everywhere. You know what I mean? And they will overlap any sort of carrier group trying to go in there. Now the Barrett Strait, same problem. You can have you're going to have coastal defenses there as well. So like this idea that the United States Navy is like completely unbeatable. It's not against Western powers. Like I mean, Denmark alone has enough firepower to sink the entirety of the United States Navy. Finnish soldiers, when they every time the Americans train with the Finnish soldiers in the Arctic, it's always a case of the Finns have to kind of like play nice because they keep demoralizing the American soldiers because they can't keep up to them and like they can't seem to take on the Finnish. Like if you want winter warriors, it's the Finns. Like they're up in the high Arctic. They know how to fight in the Arctic big time. Americans always do the poorest in the Arctic drills. They're just not built for it. You know what I mean? Maybe some of the guys from the northern United States where they actually get some winter and snow, but even at that, like the most northern spot would be Alaskan. So the guys in Alaska is probably fine, but they only have a handful of maybe 12,000 guys there at the most. That's not going to last long. You know what I mean? That's not going to last long at all, especially against eight other nations teaming up in the Arctic, right? So, those little rocket trucks, those little anti-shipping missile trucks that the Danes have. Yeah, you're not going to get around that. You know what I mean? So, I'm trying to think about how the U.S. Navy could actually blockade the Arctic, like without getting sunk. You know what I mean? Like it's almost impossible. Just the choke points, like you won't get past them. So yeah, but we got the submarines, we got this, we got that. Yeah, but like a submarine in the Barrett Strait's going to get found. Not easily, but it will. Like look, if we can find the Russian subs, we can find the American subs. That's not an impossibility, and we have these drones that can deliver like these little sea what do you call it, sea scorpions. There, not sea scorpions. Sea scorpions. Those little torpedoes that we're making now, like these things. It might not take out a full-size submarine, but it'll damage it loud. It'll be making a lot of noise. So you'll have to surface the boat. Do you really want that on there? With drones and stuff. And then anti-shipping missiles. One Harpoon missile in the middle of a Virginia-class sub on the surface. Goodbye sub, right? Like it takes years to build a sub. It only takes seconds to destroy it. Minutes to seconds. You know what I mean? Like you fire the missile, whatever. You drop the torpedo in. Look, we could send out, old torpedo bombers. Like it doesn't really matter. The torpedo does most of the work anyway. We just need to know where to drop it. And with the shore, like we can hear you from the shore, just so you know. I was like, we don't have to send out the Navy. We can hear you from the shore. It's just a matter of do we use a drone boat to drop the torpedo on you, or do we Sea Spider? Yeah, like those little Sea Spiders. We can use helicopters. We can use whatever. So yeah, but there'll be air defense and whatever. That's not as easy as you think. You can have A-10s flying around trying to shoot little drone boats. Yeah, sure, they'll do good. But those things can be set up different ways. They could have a 20 millimeter, Vulcan on there. You can set these things up to be predatory as well. It will have its cost. Might not have its cost straight away, but and just delivering torpedoes via drone, one's going to get through, and then the choke points. The torpedoes are going to get through the throat. Again, I don't see how. Like if we fight a defensive posture and we have say, and what to watch for is Canadian military like labs going all over the place is usually the first thing. You saw this after 9/11 where like Canadian labs were just like driving all over the country, because it could be a terror talk, whatever. Now labs have problems against heavy tanks, but against light infantry, they're going to make short works of light infantry. I know the Americans have more, but again, from a defensive posture, you're going to lose those vehicles out in the open or in the choke points. Like Canada is not a country you really want to invade. You're not going to find every anti-tank gunner. Your drones are going to get shot down because we can take the small drones, right? We're like one of the number one supplier of MadPad launchers in the world. So all these little surveillance drones, you're going to be blinded, sitting there waiting for orders in your tank, and all of a sudden the artillery is just going to come raining down on you, or you're going to get hit by anti-tank weapons or drones. Like it's just going to be, it's not going to be the cakewalk unless we let you in, encircle you, and then destroy you, which would be probably the best thing we could do. Just like hold them off, like just outside of Ottawa, just outside of Toronto, or sect off a certain area of Toronto, and just like, okay, or Ottawa. Actually, the best thing we could do is let the tanks into the city. Because then it's just like, okay, they went by the barber shop, there's one, they run back in, run out the back door. Okay, they blow the shit balls out of the barber shop. Okay, the Tim Hortons, there's that one. It'd be just an absolute fucking nightmare. And not, like I say, not to mention all the hardware stores and stuff like that. People will be setting up booby traps. You're not going to fight door to door in Canada. Like, I mean, yeah, with a 4 million man army, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we'll go in. But yeah, as soon as you sec in, there's an IED bang. Like every fucking, like you drive by a barn and there's a Leopard tank sitting in the barn. You know what I mean? It's like, shit. You're not going to find it all. Like the thermals are not going to find it all. It's like, okay, by the time, there, we found, shit, it's an air defense system. Bang. You know what I mean? And we do have some. We don't have much, but we do have some. And I can imagine in the next 3 months, we're about to get a lot more air defense missiles. If you start to see like German Taurus missile systems and shit like that, like the, the NASAMS, we got those, but we're giving them to Ukraine for some reason. We kind of need them here. And that's state-of-the-art American technology. Right, so maybe they know how to beat it because it's their own system, but if they don't detect it in time, you're going to lose your AWACS, you're going to lose your tankers, AWACS, and electronic warfare aircraft will be the top targets. And then after that, if we blind your satellites and your F-35s have to turn on the radars, they're as good as shot down then. You know what I mean? Because this idea that we're going to be a cakewalk, I'm like, no, we've got a lot of problems with our military, but once it comes to the fight, like again, you get like all the wheat gets separated from the chaff every time. Canada's never lost a war. We wouldn't lose one now because it's just the way we fight. Like we're very creative on, like we're in it to win it, right? Like in Afghanistan, Canadians were some of the best guys going after the Taliban because we were willing to climb through the caves with like pistols and knives. And why? Because Canadians are psychos and they like doing shit like that. Was it dangerous? Yeah, but they found more weapons caches than anybody else. We never found any weapons of mass destruction, but we did find just about everything else, right? And we blew up weapons caches. Us and the British, we blew up a lot of weapons caches. For sure. And the largest weapons cache ever detonated was that was found by Canadians. Like we found one of their biggest Taliban. Yeah. So if we got guys that can do that, those guys are still breathing. Those guys, they're going to be the guerrilla warfare fighters. They might not be out on the front line of it, but they're going to teach up the other guys. Say this is how you beat these guys. So we'll do the same thing down here in the States. Yeah, but the thing is, the war, you're going to lose all your really good guys there, and then the way the war is going to get fought in the American side is not going to be like, we're going door to door because the Geneva Convention, we can't hurt any civilians. No, we're going to be doing what the Russians and the Ukrainians are doing. Oh, there's a building. Okay, RPG, boom, fire, 5 hand grenades, every window. Okay, then go in. Throw a torch in there and some gasoline. If they're in there, they'll come out. When they come out, shoot them. This clearing building by building, humanitarian warfare. No, that's out the window. No, it's okay. There's a city block, vaporize it with artillery. Hate to do it, but do it. You know what I mean? We've got to move the line back 200 kilometers. You give them give the people 24 hours to get out of there, and then just make it look like Swiss cheese. You know what I mean? And that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. And the thing is that because we'll be probably the first 2 years we'll be fighting so defensively that you won't have the numbers, even if you can recruit 10 million people. You're going to have so much civil unrest in the United States of people just like not wanting to be drafted, not wanting to fight the war, and just counterinsurgencies amongst your own, right? Because you're already at a civil war light right now with the ICE thing, right? No, Trump is going to be. Look, I've said this back in 2009 when they killed Muammar Gaddafi, that Muammar Gaddafi is the future of the world elites. Most world elites are aware. Even Klaus Schwab, you remember that douchebag? He's wrote a book. This guy's fucking insufferable. He is. Like Dr. Evil himself is like how to regain trust and whatever, restoring trust, right? You notice they didn't push the climate change thing anywhere near like they normally do at the Davos. Why? Because there's like everybody fucking doesn't trust us. And why? Well, because most people, okay, there's still a lot of normies that haven't figured out the whole COVID thing was a hoax, but it clearly was, right? I'll probably get my channel banned, but the thing is that the evidence is there. They know it was, yes, people died from it, but like when everything became COVID, it was really to get the Trans-Pacific Partnership passed so that you could justify laying off millions and millions of people so that they could all bring in all these temporary foreign workers to replace us. That was part one of it. The other part, well, there's too many retirees. Let's kill them in the old age homes. That was another part of it. We need a surveillance grid, the digital ID, the Internet of Things, the data centers. Look, when the COVID thing was going off, the first thing they did is send everybody out to put up 5G towers. You know what I mean? And it just never ends. Like it's just like, gee, why don't they trust us? Lies, gaslighting, lies, and the only thing they can come up with is more hate speech laws to stop people from talking. So that has its consequences, and Trump was supposed to fix all that, but apparently he's in on it. It's just, again, mob bosses fighting. So that's what we have to look forward to. I'm not looking forward to this at all. So stock up. It's going to be brutal. I hate the fact that they're going to pit brother against brother, but they did it in the Ukraine. There's no reason why they say that they would never do that here. Of course they would. The people at the top, they're all cycles. Like, again, if there was ever a time for God to, like, maybe Pishnook an asteroid into Davos, that was the time, because it gets worse from here. And more and more people around the world are going to come to that conclusion that the elites have to go. You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm not calling for anything bad or anything like that or any violence, but I don't see how it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's the natural conclusion that people are going to draw, that these people are going to get us all fucking killed, either in a stupid nuclear war, or starve us out through stupid poverty and trade wars and robot economy, or they're going to vaccinate us to death, or like pick your poison here. You know what I mean? And it's all done by the insanity of people that just are completely out of touch with reality from the common person. You know what I mean? Somebody remarked this. This is a perfect mindset of like the people in charge. When George Bush Jr. went to a supermarket, he couldn't even figure out how to use the ATM machine because he'd never done it before. You know what I mean? That's how out of touch. Like these people, like they've lived such lavish lives that they've never dealt with the common people. That's why you got these radical hyper lefties out there that are like, oh well, we just need open borders now to give everybody. If we would just allow Africa to, it's just a white man holding them down. That's why they can't become rocket scientists and engineers. Then you realize when you give these people the technology, they can't maintain it because they just don't have the IQ. And that's not a jab at them. It's just, it is what it is. And it's like, okay, it doesn't matter what you do for these people. They're never going to be us. And that's the arrogance and the racism of the left, is that, no, everybody's equal. No, we're different. And it's okay that we're different. You know what I mean? We shouldn't want to industrialize the entire fucking planet. Maybe we do need people that are happy living in mud huts. Maybe it's not the nicest for us, but they're better off for it because they're not, getting all these weapons from warlords, and they're not getting all the drugs, and they're just living off the land and have a true small eco footprint, right? And if someone wants to choose to prosper, then let them. You know what I mean? but it shouldn't be up to us to dictate how they live. So we got to get out of these other third world countries. And the last thing we need to do is open our borders to them, because that's all we're doing here is bringing in third worlders. That the ones that will work, they scam everything. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just so crazy, right? So we got lots of problems no matter who's in charge. It's just Trump is becoming very dangerous to the West. If he actually makes a go on Greenland, that will spark mobilization around the world against the Americans. You'll see basically, U.S. bases like Ramstein Air Base and all that. That's it, guys. You go home. Right now, the Brits are they've got a couple of the RAF air bases that it's like that would be staging grounds to for the United States to get weapons to Israel and stuff like that, and Israeli aircraft are landing there, and it's kind of like against their deal, But you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. So the Americans can't be trusted as people, unfortunately. I know it's not all of them, but it's not how it works, right? It's the one bad apple theory, right? So we'll see where it plays out to, but again, watch what's happening with the bond market in Japan, and it's things are very, very, very volatile. If you have gold and silver, I'm not giving financial advice here. Gold, silver, cryptos, whatever you have, just hang on to it. Don't just I got to cash into it because it's high right now. No, it's not about cashing in on it because you're going to make a profit. It's about hanging on to it so that when money becomes completely worthless out of all these endeavors, you can still feed yourself with something. Hang on to it. Don't get rid of anything. Just hang on to it. If it goes to the moon and then drops back down to normal, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because the amount of evil that's going on, and yes, the wealthy are getting wealthier because look, Trump signals to the stock market what he's going to do. It props it up, right? And he's basically manipulating the stock market. He's manipulated our elections just through endorsing freaking Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre would have won otherwise. Now, where would we be if we would have had Pierre? I think Pierre believes that we can actually, now mind you, he might be just politicking for the sake of politicking, but I think he truly believes that he can, get a deal with Trump that Carney can't. And the thing is you can't. Even if when you tell Trump, yes, okay, we'll do this, he backstabs you. He moves the goalposts. He's done this since day one. Nothing is ever good enough for man. Why? He's a psychopath, right? And the goal isn't to get a better deal between Canada and the United States. The goal is to destroy Canada, to take it over for its resources. Look, Venezuela, you're starting to get the leader there now. She's like, no, they threatened to kill us. That's why we went along with it. It was like that or die, right? But no, we weren't. Mind you, she could be saving her own butt, saying, no, I wasn't part of the coup. Who knows, right? That'll play out however that plays out. But yeah, it's just going to get like I say, the first 2 months of January, we're going to see about 10 years worth of craziness. We had another Orezhnik, strike, didn't even barely make the news. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable what's going on. And again, you'd see 10 years worth of chaos in 2 months. Just wait till the weather gets warm. Stock up on food, guys. And I know, most of my audience is probably American. You don't want to hear me, trash talking like this, and I get that. But it's where we're at. You know what I mean? So prepare wisely. I don't want to go to war with you guys. I pray you guys don't want to go to war with us. But your president does. That's the thing. And we know that the law enforcement military just follow orders. That's the thing. So, all the people that are always dismissing Canada, it's always the thing. It's always from ignorance that Canada can't do anything about the United States. It's because of us that they're alive. And it's we've been here for 500 years. You know what I mean? Yes, okay, NAFTA's kind of made us a little bit dependent on you in the past 40 years. Okay, 30 to 40 years, whatever it was. 1991 was a long time ago. I get that. But that can switch back. Like once Canada takes its nationalistic path, which I'm all for that, right? The more we decouple from the United States, it's nothing offense to the United States, but we need to do it. We need to. They need to do it. We need to do it. But we could have done it with cooperation. It's like the Greenland deal. All that stuff that Trump is asking for, all these theatrics, they're completely pointless because the Greenlanders they've been telling you since day one, yeah, we can make new deals. Just come to the table. Trump doesn't come to the table. Oh, Canada put out and again, you just got to think of the ridiculousness of this. Canada put out a commercial, and that's interfering with our elections. Blah blah blah. No, it wasn't. And the thing is like, okay, all trade deal talks are off from. We're going to like basically hurt Americans because the orange faggot got fucking butthurt because of a commercial, right? Do you really believe that's what? No, it's pretext. The United States is looking for pretext to go to war with many countries, not alone, let alone Canada. You know what I mean? Like, or Iran and stuff like that. That's probably the next one. Iran, Cuba, us, Greenland. I don't know who they're going to hit next. And yes, the U.S. soldiers will attack us. They don't believe in the Constitution. They always say they do, but they don't, because it's pretty much a legal war. It's been a legal war since forever, right? But the Iraqi veterans figured it out, that all the wars were illegal, and they were all for Israel and the Greater Israel Project, pretty much. Other things too, but mainly that. And the part that gets me is that how quickly, it's like, well, we were completely opposed to this whole, like the Bush era, the Obama era, and the Biden stuff. But when Trump does it, oh, well, no, it's for hemispheric, he's pushing out the Chinese and the Russians. And again, none of it's true, right? Like none of it's really true. Like it's just not true. Yeah, there's an attack on the Russians and an attack on the Chinese. It doesn't mean the Chinese aren't trying to push influence, in certain ways. But they don't have this mega... it's not the mega problem that the United States is making out, nor can it become the problem. Even Trump admitted himself that the Greenland thing is not over the minerals because it's under miles of ice, right? It would, so even Trump is out there at Davos telling you that, no, I lied. It's not really about, and he does this all the time. It's about this. Oh, no, it's not about this. It's about border security and fentanyl. Oh, it's not really about that. And like this guy, it's just like he's so inconsistent. Like it's just, yeah, and it looks so bad on the world stage. But like I said, the United States is possibly about to go to war with 45 different countries. You will not survive that as Americans. You will lose about. You guys will be dead. You guys will be just dead. You're a big country, sure. You're a powerful military, but you're going to be blasted back to a third world country and starve to death. That's what's going to happen. Look, if Canada goes it alone, the war between the United States and Canada will take place over about a 30-year period. Okay? Now, if we have allies, NATO allies coming to our aid, it'll probably be about a 10-year war at minimum, right? And you will lose half of the United States to 3/4 of the United States. The Brits will get some, the Germans will get some, we'll get some. Who knows? Whatever coalition, again, spoils of war, right? Yes, the United States would lose. There's no way you can fight that many advanced militaries, even if they're not all quite up to your spec. We got super weapons. You have so little super weapons, and those things, once they're known about, and this is one thing, like Trump can't keep his mouth shut. If you did have a super weapon, well, we now know about it. So you better believe we're going to find it. You know what I mean? Like the Chinese are on that one. Yeah. And look, the Czech Republic used these sonic weapons against their people, whatever, and stuff like that. We know about them. The Americans have them. We know about them, right? And again, it's just it's some sort of weapon like that, but it can probably be countered once you understand what it is, right? So it works battle 1, battle 2, battle 3, but by battle 15 or whatever, you're completely out of stalemate because we figured out how to beat it. And that's what's going to happen. So this idea you're going to take over Canada without firing a shot, no. It will not be that It will not be that pleasant, and it won't be in 3 days. It won't. You don't have enough fuel to take over Canada in 3 days. Just moving that, like, again, an Abrams tank. Basically, the biggest thing is that you have to follow it with a fuel truck, and the thing only goes 70 miles before it runs out of fuel. You know what I mean? Yeah. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. The Red Dawn scenario is not a real scenario, guys. I don't know what else. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. There was other stuff I wanted to cover, but that's where we're at. So yeah, this whole signaling is to kind of let the Americans know that we know that they're planning something. My hunch is that it was probably, and again, you can see it on the open with U.S. generals kind of going in solidarity with Canada and NATO on something like that without trying to get a Trump tirade. They do it as politically correct, but they're in front of basically official statements in these committees and hearings and stuff like that about where they're aligned and following international law and blah, 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 and stuff like that. So there's no doubt that we probably got tipped off by, and to those Americans, they're heroes, by the way. You might call them traitors down there, but we'll call them heroes up here for letting us know that we need to prepare for an invasion, most likely. And now, it might not come to pass. Maybe by saying it out loud like that, it thwarts the plan, right? Kind of like the Iran thing. It's like, okay, well, they fucking know it's coming. Well, if Trump would keep his mouth shut, maybe they wouldn't know it's coming. You know what I mean? But that's also a tactic too. Threaten to invade, don't invade. Threaten to invade, don't invade. So most people say they're never going to do it. That's exactly when they're going to do it. When you're convinced that they will not do it. Operation Barbarossa, the thing in Ukraine. Trump is just doing a different version of what the Russians did. The Russians did military drills along the border. Threaten invasion, a possibility of invasion, then not do it. Like back out. That's the tactic. It's you see it over and over and over again. No, we're not going to use military force against. Now, mind you, Trump has never ruled out military force against Canada, ever. So that tells you, we're like again, these psychopaths, like they have to blurt everything out. That's what Trump was telling us, is that we're going to fucking attack you. Like, you exist because of us. You're about to be put in your place. You just wait and see what we're going to do to you, right? It'll never be forgiven. And the retribution attacks are, like, again, the terrorism that would take place after day one of the war in the United States would be, with Canadian sympathizers down there. Would it be worth it? And again, I know there's Americans out there. Well, yeah, we have to attack Canada because they're working with the Chinese now. You know what I mean? And it's like there's just no nuance with these people whatsoever, right? And I know we have thick people like that up here too, but it's so fucking like, how do they exist? Why do they walk among us, right? Like, again, you couldn't have picked two countries that had a better deal with each other. I'm not saying there wasn't any trade disputes or anything like that. Sure. But what I'm also saying too is, like, every country was the envy of the world. We were the envy of the world. It's like, look at the trade deal they got. Both sides. It's like they're a super PAC. You know what I mean? And one man and his stupid fucking faggot administration decided to throw it all away for the Greater Israel Project and American exceptionalism, and it's just like, it's so fucking stupid, and it'll cost so many lives. I mean, like, look, we're almost in February. You got more farmers that can't pick crops to the far south. Like, again, exactly what I was telling you about with my biggest concern for the Americans is the food shortages. And whatever, you have to understand, this year, the disruptions from this year, you haven't felt them all yet. It's still another 2 years before you're going to feel the full effects of the slowdown. Like, it takes a while you can destroy things overnight, but it takes a while to fully feel the effects. So what's going to happen is the mass layoffs that are going to hit everywhere. It's going to be up here in Canada too. The difference is that we're pivoting, right? So, it's just how fast can we do it, so that Carney needs to do something to really open up the Canadian economy. The biggest one is the trade barrier thing, which is a good thing that he's doing. Again, we've gotten a lot of accidental wins out of this, But we've got a lot of deliberate wins out of this too. And again, that's not a reigning endorsement of Carney. I'm just saying this is what's going on. Now you can point out to a million things that are going wrong in Canada, and then okay, that we'll just separate and we'll just throw the baby out with the bathwater because there's no point in trying. Well, if you want to lay down and die, that's you. That's on you. That's a you thing. That's a you problem. What I'm saying is no. We need to diversify trade. We need to break down our trade barriers. We definitely have to wrangle the fucking immigration problem. Everybody does. But we also have to become resourceful. We have to basically not wait for somebody to fix our problems. Don't wait for the government to fix your problem. Go fix it yourself. Now's the time to do it. Do it while it's easy. Again, it's not easy, but now's the time while it's easy because trust me, it's not going to get easier once bombs start raining down on us and the power's out, right? It's not going to be easy when you have these guys just following orders, killing you, and then going home bitching about PTSD because they had to murder innocent people. And they couldn't figure out that it was the wrong thing to do, before the invasion. It's always the same. It's always the same, right? So what I'm saying is just be prepared. Be as prepared. I don't care if you're American or Canadian, you got to be prepared. American exceptionalism is an idiotic ideology that's failed twice already. The third invasion of Canada. Well, look, the last time you kicked your ass, we had muskets. Now we have all kinds of shit, right? We got modern weaponry and everybody just dismisses it. It's like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. And again, if that was the mentality, for example, one thing that everybody's looking at is the Ukraine, right? They're like, okay, look, you got a superior force that is winning in the Ukraine, but it's 4 years. What did Russia spend to get where they are, right? Okay. What, 500,000 men dead? 1 million men dead? I don't know. There's probably 2 million people killed in Ukraine in 4 years. That is fucking disastrous. Disastrous. And I know Canada would be the worst country. It'd be hard enough in the winter just because of the elements, right? The summer, the thing is that it's just it's Iwo Jima with trees, right? It's the ambushes. Yes, IEDs. We don't have to fight the U.S. military where they're at. You fight them where they're not, right? Let them walk into the traps. If we can trap beavers, we can trap tanks. The air power is and the naval power. The naval power, I'm not as worried about because ships are out at sea, right? A U.S. Navy blockade is theirs to lose. Again, you got to look at things for where we here, I'll switch this around for a look at the map. If you think you can just put the U.S. Navy here, okay, and not and take all this that, no, you got to put them here. Good luck with that. There's Newfoundland, whatever. You want to try to come in through there between Quebec and Newfoundland? Look at that gap. You're freaking missile food there. You want to come in through here. Anticosti, you want to get past Anticosti? Our missiles cover those ranges. Our torpedoes cover those ranges. You want to come up through you go in there, you're dead for sure. Just the ice will get you. Between here, that's a big strait, but yeah, your base is here. We can have something here pretty quick too. You're not going to get in here. We'll have that covered. Come across the Great Lakes, well, oh yeah, but we'll just go through the prairies. Well, remember the Rockies are here as well, right? This is open country here. That's the only open country, sure, but that's open country. Nobody invades unless you're stupid. Nobody invades an open country. Ask the Ukrainians and the Russians what happens when a tank comes out of the tree line over there. The second it does, it gets fucking whacked by there's been 12,000 tanks already destroyed between the both sides. It's ridiculous amount of APCs and stuff that get it's thousands, right? The Americans don't have thousands of tanks. They have 2,200 that are functioning, and out of the 5,500, and most of them are not upgraded. Like an older Abrams is not going to last 5 seconds. They're too heavy. Number one, like even we don't have to blow half the bridges. Why? Because the American APCs will just fall right through them, the bridges. Yeah, they won't be able to go across the bridges. They'll just fall right through, drown the creek. You know what I mean? That's why the Leopard tank was designed to be lighter, and the Leopard's way more adapt to our climate and stuff like that than what the Abrams is for that. But that said, you're not going to see Leopard to Abrams tank fights anyway. Maybe the odd one out of accident, but it's the same in Ukraine. Like thousands of tanks, and I think maybe about there, like in 4 years, there's been like maybe 10 or 15 actual tank-on-tank battles. Or the odd APC comes around. Oh, there's a Russian T-72 or Ukrainian Leopard. Like everybody's seen that against a couple of Russian APCs or whatever pair of T-72s. Yeah, that did happen, but that's not what you're fighting. What you're predominantly fighting is drones and artillery. That's trenches, drones, and artillery. I mean, it's just, yeah. And if we mobilize early, if we only have 2 weeks to mobilize, it would take the war probably about 4 or 5 years for the Americans to win. Boots on the ground, right? Because they're not going to, like, Trump could do airstrikes against Canada and hit our infrastructure and food and stuff like that and whatever. But, you have to understand the blowback from the world, too, is goodbye all U.S. trade. Like, it's just, you're going to lose millions of jobs, like millions. You've already lost millions of jobs, but you're going to lose millions more. And the other problem is that you're assuming nobody's going to give us any aid, right? They may or may not, but they might not do direct, but they might do direct. You know what I mean? And again, you're dealing with two other superpowers in NATO, three superpowers in NATO, other than the United States. Well, Turkey's kind of not really a superpower. Like there's nukes there, but they don't have the triggers for them. UK has its own nukes, aircraft deliverable, and France has its own nukes, aircraft deliverable. So the thing is that if you have to pull the entire United States military back home, just getting across the ocean, aircraft wise or whatever, it'll take them forever if they spread the soldiers out on commercial aviation. But if they send a military transport, it gets shot down. Like you can see Eurofighter Typhoons. Okay, yeah, we know there's, a transport aircraft, 250 soldiers on it. Shoot it down. you know what I mean? You'd say, oh yeah, but will they be escorted and everything? Yeah, but again, how spread out around the world can you be? You know what I mean? Like there's only, you only got 2,500 fighters up and running. Like again, and you have to understand most of that stuff's going to get destroyed on the ground. We're not going to be fighting the F-35s in the air. We're going to, drone strike them on the ground. So, well, you'll never get close to it. You'll never. They say that about everything. The second it's sitting there parked for maintenance, like it's like the F-35s are going to be a one-time use. You go up, you fly, you empty your mission. When it's sitting there, it comes back and lands for maintenance. There's a drone waiting for it, or a mortar, or an artillery, or something. You know what I mean? The equipment, even if it works only half as good as what they say, is pretty potent on all sides. Even the older stuff, like an anti-tank weapon, even when a better one comes out, doesn't mean the old one's not lethal. Like World War I artillery is still lethal. If you get hit by a 6-pounder shell, you're fucked. You know what I mean? It's not as good as the new stuff. But again, sitting waiting in ambush, just a little 75 millimeter World War II gun with an anti-tank weapon in it can blow the shitballs out of an MRAPs and kill everybody inside. There's 6-8 guys, bang, just like that. The helicopters, Black Hawk helicopters. Oh, we're going to do a Red Dawn style land invasion. Okay, they're 500 feet in the air. Okay, and here comes 16 of them. And there's 4 guys on the ground with Stinger missiles with multiple reloads. You knock the tail off one of those, there's 16 guys dead every time. 12 to 16 guys. And you say that'll never happen because we're so superior, we'll jam all the signals and blah, blah, blah. one lav with an AMX round. Where did I put the round? Yeah. I'll show you my dummy lav round that I got at a surplus store. That's a 1-inch round. Okay. We also shoot 35 millimeter, which is bigger than this. This 1-inch round, okay, that's just a. It's not an actual live round. It's not even a training round. It's just a. That's what's going to be shooting at you. So you come over a tree line with an Apache, and that's there meeting you. The range of the Apache, yeah, sure, the 30 millimeter cannon on the Apache is more potent, but we're going to have probably the ambush. You know, we'll shoot you in the ass as you fly by. You know, the Apache can't take a hit from that. You can take a couple of hits from that from maybe like 2,000 feet away, or 2,000 meters away, but you know, it's still going to take damage. But like less than 2,000 feet away, it gets shot down. There's no Black Hawk that's going to survive getting ripped apart 5 rounds a second on that. It'll kill everybody in there. The Russians found out you can't just use helicopters to fly across. Look, remember like the first 6 months of the Ukrainian war, there was Hind helicopters flying all over the place. They're almost all been destroyed now. Most of them on the ground, but a lot of them, like as soon as they take off, it's like a Ukrainian shoots them down. And it's like, okay, well, you can take them down with the Iglas or the Stingers, whatever, and you just shoot them all down. Helicopters, tanks, big warships, all that stuff has kind of went obsolete to drones and artillery and air defense systems, you know, and cruise missiles. That's the new war. That's what it is. Sure, the Americans have lots of that, but the delivery systems, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to be able to fight with that in electronic warfare, which we also have. You know, so it's never underestimate your opponent. Like if you think a Canadian-American war can be fought in 3 days, you're stupid. It can't be. Like you couldn't even drive. Like I say, it takes 2 days just to drive out of Ontario alone. You know what I mean? You know, yeah, I know it's an hour from New York State, from Syracuse to Ottawa. But that highway is, you know, like, I mean, there's a lot of open ground there for anti-tank gunners again, every barn you go by, there's going to be 5 anti-tank gunners there. You know, you send columns of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And not to mention that if, you know, again, anti-tank traps, you know, like just, even not even putting in the IED, just the illusion that there's an IED there will bring a column right to a screeching halt. Make sure there's no artillery gunners knowing this. You know what I mean? Because that'd be one of the plans. It's like, oh, make it look obvious so that they jam on the brakes so they have to get out the equipment to take out the IED, right? Just put fake wires on the side of the road. You could do this, you know, every 10th one would be a fake one, or every 10th one would be a real one, right? So while they're sitting there doing with that's your bait for the ambush, right? Suddenly you got all these guys out there, you know, trying to, you know, figure out if it's a real IED, and then they realize they're outside the armored vehicles just as the artillery lands, right? They'll never make it back to the vehicles in time. And then you have ambush after ambush after, like ambushes favor the defender, right? Canada is pretty much an invasion-proof country almost just on geography alone. You know, we can't rest on our laurels, but we need to mobilize early. You know, and then that's what we're signaling, is that we're mobilizing early. Like all the Canadian Arctic drills that are going on right now. Sure, the Americans are still on board with it for now, whatever, not to let the jig up, you know, but just to let Trump know that we are doing stuff, right? And no, you won't take us out that early. And by signaling to the general public, this is actually a smart thing. My hunch is that some sort of U.S. general or somebody like that tipped us off, saying, no, it's not just rhetoric, he's going to do it. You know, you better prepare wisely. So things we won't see is probably like, you know, a heavy transport aircraft in the middle of the night coming in from like Germany, France, or wherever, or Sweden, with anti-tank weapons on it, right? But we could. If there's any sort of, if you see a build up of military vehicles going here, going there, or just like military, you know, trucks, just, you know, like regular pickup trucks. Suddenly they're in your town, guys just talking on the radio and looking at stuff and whatever. what they're doing is planning on where they're going to set up their ambushes preemptively, and that wins a war right there. Just to not have to, okay, oh well, they've invaded, okay, well, whatever. No, we'll sit and wait. We'll like it's what I call the Finnish model. The Finnish model would work brilliantly in Canada for the most part, because like it's basically get the Russians to roll everything superior numbers into the choke points, and you kill them all there. So again, if you love your loved ones in the States, you have to, like, don't be convinced in superiority there, because like what are you going to say when, like, 15,000 American soldiers are killed in a week in Canada? That, oh well, we got to go get the Canadians for defending themselves. And this is where this is the mindset Trump has. There's a lot of Americans like that. Canada needs to pay. We have to hurt. We have to kill those fucking evil Canadians because they've done whatever to us, right? And they have this mindset. It's very similar to what the Israelis have and the Zionists have, where they just have to kill everybody because whatever, they're crazy, right? But the thing is that how are you going to not understand that? And this is something Trump can't understand as a bully, right? Like, what do you mean Carney's going to, like, with the smaller economy, is not just folding? What do you mean Justin Trudeau didn't fold? Again, I hate Justin Trudeau, but, Carney's doing the right thing. And I know if he didn't do it, okay, if he didn't do this, right, what it would signal, and you have to understand, Carney is probably scared out of his mind too. I can't imagine how he wouldn't be. Trying to ponder the thought of how do I mobilize my forces fast enough to save our economy from the death of the United States economy while the Americans are planning an invasion on us, right? And again, it's all humble beginnings. And what the Canadian generals are saying is that if the NORAD is disbanded, the American attack might be 3 months after, but it might be the day after. You never know. This is, like, again, we're dealing with the rationality of Trump, which is not very rational. But what I'm also saying is that something's up. Like, they're letting the public know this for a reason, right? And maybe it's has nothing to do with that, and it's just like, okay, well, the economy is just going to get so bad when Trump pulls the plug on it, that, if people are preparing for war, well, they'll be prepared for an economic collapse too. Maybe it's that. But either way, prepare for both, because you ain't getting one without the other, right? Yeah, so the thing is Trump has signaled enough that he wants to invade us, to steal our stuff. And he will not, and nor will any of his staffers say, we're not going to invade you. Even Carolyn Levitt won't even say it. Why? She's not allowed to. She says, no, we promise we won't invade. And Trump says, well, I'm not going to invade. I don't need to use power, whatever. But then he goes into, yeah, but you better watch your step. You know what I mean? Like, it's this double speak, whatever he does. Like, again, and he's doing it out of rage and anger. He hates Canada. He really hates Carney. Because, like, Trudeau, he could bully around fairly easily. But Carney is like, not only does he step up to him, but he's not playing into the game as easy. He's like, okay, well, if you don't need anything from us, we're going to divert trade. Oh, you go ahead, you divert trade. How dare you divert your trade? That's exactly what you're getting from Trump, right? And so Carney's kind of confused, like, what? You can't appease this guy. Like, it's like, he doesn't need us, he needs us, he's a psychopath, he's a bully. That's what Trump is. He's not a tyrant, he doesn't know how to be a tyrant yet, thank God. Xi's a tyrant. How do you know? He just had 1,000 people arrested in upper levels of government and military in his country on the whim that there's going to be a coup against him. That's a tyrant. That is a strong man. Because Trump, the thing is he's going to have to make do on some of his threats. This is the moon over Parador scenario. You threaten this, and then you always back down, and then people lose, belief that you're going to do anything. Then you actually have to do something to gain that respect back, right? Or else you lose all credibility and power. That is what makes a strongman. Trump is not the strongman. He's just a game show host. Orange faggot, that's all he is. He's just the orange faggot. Problem is, the orange faggot has control of nukes and a big-ass military. And he can hurt a lot of people just because... Like, what was the fucking Maduro raid even really about? Like that was all vanity. It didn't really accomplish anything. Like the Maduro regime is still there. It's just he's on vacation somewhere. You know what I mean? So did the Venezuelans win? No. Did the Americans win on the gas prices and oil, getting all this oil? No. You know what I mean? Like it's this is the dangers we're like. It's an unbelievable danger we're in with the Trump administration, and the rest of the world can see this, right? So I'm sure there's people in high up levels of government that are just like, no, we have to warn the Canadians, get prepared. Heck, you know, they might even leak plans saying this is how the invasion is going to take down. You know, now would they throw their own guys under the bus like that, saying, okay, well, we'll tell the Canadians exactly how we're gonna take them down, and then that way they can counter it and whatever. They might not go that far. They might just say, look, just be prepared. We're going to attack you at some point. I can see them doing that. I can't see them saying, okay, yeah, here's how you beat us. You know, but you never know. You know what I mean? That's the thing about loyalty, right? On the world stage, Carney looks good to most people. I know a lot of people on the right here in Canada hate him because he's a liberal, right? And again, you have to understand the deracination of a lot of people on the right, which are willing to destroy Canada, thinking that separation movements would work when it doesn't go after the core problems. Like you're still going to have the core problems whether you separate or not, right? Looking at you, Alberta, like it's again, like there's no, if you think you're going to get a better deal separated, no, it'd be the worst thing that could ever happen to Alberta. Yes, I get all your arguments, whatever, but you got to think of these arguments in the bigger picture. Okay. I know transfer payments have been something that bugs Albertans, whatever. I get that. Okay. And the pipeline issue. But you got to think bigger than that. Like the pipelines, like that is a thing, but you've got lots of industry there, but not enough industry to go it alone. You know what I mean? Quebec is probably the only province that could do that. The problem with Quebec is we've had Quebec leader after Quebec leader basically throw Quebec under the bus by not developing its resources, which Quebec is the most resource region in the world overall, especially with fresh water and stuff like that, right? So like this quick, we're going to separate and everything's going to be perfect. No, that just destroys everything. I've already lived through a referendum in 1995, and trust me, I was against the Quebec separatists. I'm against the Albertan separatists. The difference, though, is that Quebec at least did it on a cultural, nationalistic, thing. Where Alberta, again, it's for oil and for pipelines, and transfer payments. You know what I mean? That's the big one. It's like, okay, yeah, but surely you could find something more, common ground. Like, for example, like again, you have to understand, like, you're still going to have the mass immigration problem that you have, right? You're still going to have the globalist problems that you have if you separate, because you're not dealing with the actual issues. So you might get rid of like 2 issues, but you're going to get like 150 new issues you never thought. Yeah, but then we'll just join on with the United States and they'll fix everything. Have you looked at the state of the states right now? They ain't fixing shit. You know what I mean? Like they're not even trying. You know what I mean? Like it's just deteriorating and deteriorating. You know what I mean? Like it's like, at least with Carney, he's at least trying something. You know what I mean? And again, I didn't vote for the man. I would never vote for the man. But I got to call it honestly. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear me say positive things about what Carney's doing. It's like, oh, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. No, I know all the bad things waiting for us on the other end. You're preaching. I've been talking about it for years. I know. But I'm also telling you, okay, here's a little spark of a chance, right? And now, to make things worse, we have to plan for an invasion on top of the biggest economic collapse probably in history. You know what I mean? Like we already had the biggest economic collapse in history. That was 2008. Look, a lot of people speculated that the 2008 collapse, when we do hit the real collapse, it's going to be about 400 times worse. I'm thinking it's more going to be like 4,000 times worse. I don't know how that's even possible. But look, guys, January 1st, I said, what, $5,400 to $8,500 gold? And we were like still in the 3,000. We hadn't hit 4,000. We're now at $4,800. It went up like $80 over a couple of nights. We're probably past $5,000 gold now. We're $100 silver. So if you have that shit, hang on to it. But what does the world look like at $5,400 gold? Scary, very scary. Right? We have dying empires everywhere. The chaos is insurmountable. But what I'm telling you is that the Canadian military and government are telling the people we know something's up. That's what that's about. It's not just politicking and Carney's just trying to make Trump look bad and blah blah. There is that, sure. Granted, of course he's going to use it to his advantage, but it's bigger than that. No, when you they're telling the people this for a reason, because really that's not so much for the Canadian audience, it's for the American audience. What it is a plea to servicemen in the States: don't attack Canada, please. Here's what's waiting for you if you do. And yes, I'm sure the way the Canadian ethos is, we're already on it. We're on it perfectly. No. They're running scenarios. So if they're saying, we're just running hypothetical scenarios, trust me, they're already moving equipment. You're just not going to see it. It's going to be moving on trains in the middle of the night. You're not going to see the tanks and everything like that moving around. Number one, we don't have very many, except for our labs. We have something like 900 labs, and I think 600 of them are overseas. So, you know what I mean? But that's not what's going to win the war. What's going to win the war is the guerrilla warfare. It's going to be the anti-tank weapons. It's going to be the Stinger missiles shooting down the helicopters. It's going to be the drones and artillery killing all the American servicemen. You know what I mean? And then, just if Carney's really smart, what he needs to do is ditch the gun ban thing. I have a hunch that he's going to do something about that, because I already got my RCMP email saying that, you got to register or whatever. But it's held off till next year, right? So, or something like that, or maybe it's coming due, whatever. Would they do the gun confiscation? If the leftists had the idea of, we're going to get all the government workers who are majority left-wing policing all the right-wingers in the chaos. The problem is these people, they're government workers, and no offense to government workers, but they tend to like to sit down all day, not run around with rifles and shit. Right-wingers, on the other hand, are a no-brainer. We like that. Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, you're good. Okay, you want us to do a conscript military? Yeah, we'll do that for you. I want a rifle as payment. I want a C7 as payment. Yeah, you know what I mean? You could sweeten the deal. You can get us. But domestic only. None of this flying over to Ukraine to fight their war or whatever. And Carney could pull that card too, but I don't think he's going to. We're already spread too thin to begin with. That's why they're trying to get the numbers up so drastically. And the Canadian military numbers are up slightly. But it's the woke stuff is what destroyed the Canadian military, not the equipment or the will to fight. Again, go back to the SS officers' assessment of fighting Canadians in World War II. Germans hated fighting us the most. They dreaded it. It demoralized them. Because they knew that we want, like I said, they admired the British for their tactics. They're trying to be efficient with their tactics to just kill you and get to the next objective. The Americans try to do it with overwhelming firepower, kill you quick to get to take the least amount of casualties for themselves. But Canadians, it didn't matter. You couldn't stop them, because even when they were bogged down a bit, they would still find another way around, because their goal was to kill you with a knife or kill you, look you in the eye when they killed you. Why? Because the Canadians were crazed with violence, right? We were the worst to fight that way. Could you imagine in the modern era, especially with hardware stores around? The Taliban didn't have hardware store guys. You imagine how bad the Taliban would have been if there would have been a Radio Shack there? You know what I mean? Just think about it, right? So again, like I say, there's going to be all kinds of homemade chemical warfare. The Anarchist Cookbook is probably about to boost in sales. I'm sure it is. That's why a lot of people to put so much emphasis on a gun behind every blade of grass. I'm more worried about the drones in the sky. It's these drones that catch you while you're not even looking. The drone footage is so fucking grim. It's just so nothing you can do about it. You see it and it's I'm dead. You know what I mean? It's once it's right on. There's one guy though. Fuck, there was 3 drones on him at once, and he was fucking doing some Matrix shit to get around. Yeah, that guy was just fucking bobbing and weaving. I think it was a Ukrainian guy, or it might have been a Russian guy, whatever. But he was just this guy, and an older guy too. He was just fucking Boom, drone go by and blow up behind him. Then duck hits the tree. It's like he ran around a tree like 3 times to try to save himself, and it was just like, yeah, that's what our world leaders want us to be doing. Ain't that nice? Yeah, just so some orange fucktard faggot can get a feather in his cap. You know what I mean? It's so sickening. It's so sick. And it's not just him. It's all of them. You know what I mean? Mob bosses fighting. Anyway, I got other stuff to do, so that's what I got to say. But no, that's the heads up, guys. It does look like we're going to war. I can't see it happening before August, but I mean, you got a 6-month window in Canada to fight a war practically. Because like maybe even less than that when you really think about it. It really depends on the vehicles used. Tracked vehicles are almost too heavy anywhere. That's the problem they have with the Challengers, particularly the Challengers and the Abrams in the Ukraine, is they're just too heavy. The PZ, the PZ F1000, Kampfpanzers that Germany supplied, like they're bogged down in the mud, like so like the wheeled artillery is working better than the tracked artillery because it's just like it's too heavy, right? It just it's okay on the ice and it's okay on the desert, but in muddy spring conditions and stuff like that. That's why the T-72 is such a, even by today's standard, is still a great tank, is because it's so mobile, because it's lighter. It's got a big wide track. It's fast and it's light. The Leopard's somewhere in between. It's a little heavier, but yeah. But anyway, not looking good at all. Like you got to just read between the lines a bit, and it's not much of a stretch. So if you're Canadian, you might hate Carney, but understand that Trump hates us more than you hate him. And he wants us dead. He wants to take our territory. It's not about defense pacts. It's not about making a deal. It's not about the art of deal. It's not cueing the Patriots, sticking it to the globalists. It's nothing like that at all. It never was. This is just a kind of more of an insane kill or be killed kind of scenario that's being thrusted on us for delusionary reasons. That's the only thing, they just, even Black Pigeon Speaks was like, like the whole Greenland thing is just like, the only thing I could figure it out is a vanity project, because again, Trump himself said, well, it's not really about the minerals, because everybody knows you can't get to them. That's why this claim that China's all over Greenland, and they're not. Russia's all over Greenland, they're not. Number one, everything's frozen up there right now, so nobody's up there. Nobody's all over Greenland right now. They're all staying in their fucking houses. Like that place in Russia, they got I thought it was 25 feet. It was like 7 feet of snow. Holy shit! That looks like something else. Better them than me though. But yeah, they're crazy. Anyway, there we go. I'm sure there's other things I got to cover, but I'll leave it for the next one. All right, be safe. Keep stocking up. Like I say, the farmers are still. Again, we're getting a new round of farmers saying we can't pick nothing. Yeah, crazy. Anyway, there we go.